One of the questions I've been asked a lot since I've been out is what is solitary confinement? Most people have a view of solitary confinement from motion pictures they've seen, TV programs or something where it's an exaggeration of what really goes on. I think the most difficult part of solitary is you're confined to a very small area. The cells usually have some metal bunks attached to the wall and a metal combination toilet bowl and zinc to the back wall of the cell and a metal table and bench attached to the other wall. So you really don't have.
All right, so I wanted to talk to you about your experience with music. Could you talk first, before you were incarcerated, what kind of music you grew up on and what you liked?
Well, being an African American, and I was raised on what's called R&B, rhythm and blues. Music has always been source used in my household. I can remember, my mother and aunties and other female members and male members in the family, listening to some of the old greats. There was always a radio playing in my house.
Yeah.
That was common practice, cultural practice in most African American homes. You go in there and you'll hear the radio on, and music is playing. B.B. King, Aretha Franklin, Bobby Boubland, James Brown. Some of the old legends are R&B. When I went to Angola and when I was put in solitary confinement in '72, because of the limited availability of the kind of music I grew up on, R&B and jazz and stuff.
Yeah.
It forced me to listen to other types of music. One of the forms of music that I never really was familiar with or anything was opera and symphony music. I used to listen to a radio station. At that time, we were not allowed to have TVs or anything in CCR that came years later, but the only type of music they played at that time, was either opera or symphony music. Occasionally some jazz. It was my way of relaxing. It was my way of meditation. I have a very active mind, so the concept of clearing my mind and going into another space, or blank space, or something like that, I just never was possible for me, So, but I did find out, discover out of that by listening to, opera and symphony music and jazz and stuff. My appreciation and for music just expanded. Eventually, I got into Native American chant songs, nature videos, rainstorm, swamp, drums. I have a collection of CDs, that drum symphonies from around the world. My favorite is the Japanese drums, and that come from, I used to, when I first put in CCR, and eventually we first got TVs, we used to look at some old martial arts movies, and part of the music for those movies were, the drums and flutes and stuff like that.
Right. Okay. I'll have to check some of that out.
It's good. It's great music. At least to me, it is.
What do you think of the Die Jim Crow project, and how'd you like being on a song?
Well, I think it's great. Otherwise, I wouldn't have, agreed to do it. I think any program that has to do with exposing prison or developing, be an empathy for change in prisons, is a worthy program. Like I say, anything that I can do that may start a conversation or movement about towards prison reform. You know, I'll try to, you know, lend my name and my image, because that was the vow we took in Angola, you know, when we didn't have any idea we would ever be free. But we all said, you know, if we ever go free, then, you know, because one of the things Robert and Harmon and I used to always talk about was that we had no voice, you know. I mean, prisoners, we had no voice, we had no face. People didn't know, you know, what prisoners looked like.
Right.
You know, they forgot that prisoners, you know, don't come from another planet. They come from families, you know. They sons and fathers and brothers and sisters and grandparents and aunties and uncles, you know, cousins, you know, they forget that. The reality between the image that they have cultivated on society and what prisons really are, you know, are wide as the Grand Canyon. One of the things King and Harmon and I realized that we're not the only political prisoners. But for some reason, whatever reason, maybe the fact that we were in solitary so long, the people in the United States and the world rallied to our cause, you know. And so we realized that we have been given a unique situation, you know, and so we're trying to use that platform to, you know, as I said, raise level of consciousness, start conversations, and that may lead to movements that changes prisons, how they use, you know, and it totally eliminate the use of solitary confinement. Yeah.
I know I said that was my last question. Something you just said, though, I just gotta ask. It's a big answer, so you don't need to go too into it, but you used the word prison reform, and then you said eliminate solitary confinement. Are you a prison abolitionist? Would you identify yourself as such?
I'm revolutionary, you know. Now, if abolitionists fall in that sphere, then, you know, what the old saying is, Shakespeare, a rose, but by a rose is any other name, is still a rose, you know. Yeah. So, you know, if you feel comfortable saying prison abolitionist, you know, I consider myself to be a social revolutionary. You know, my constant struggle is for change. You know, it's funny how the thing that humanity need the most to survive is change, but it's the thing we fight the hardest against, because we don't, you know, change takes us in unfamiliar charts, and we self-confidence, you know, is affected and stuff. So, you know, we kind of like fight against change because we don't want to have to deal with the unknown factor that change brings. But, you know, usually, you know, once we, you know, get familiar with that change, you know, we kind of adapt and move on to the next phase of change, you know.
That's a great note to end on.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Albert.
All right. Thank you, sir.